Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Anthony.
Today we're going to go over one of my more interesting topics, Bitcoin, and specifically Bitcoin's unclaimed property problem. We've touched on this a couple of times, but I just want to really hammer this home. So, since Bitcoin is going through a bull market right now, and it seems to be getting more and more mainstream every day, I really feel like new Bitcoiners need to be aware of the unclaimed funds problem. And hopefully, I'm not promising to offer a solution today, but hopefully we can contribute to the conversation of arriving at a solution. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So first, let's talk about how do unclaimed funds work generally. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. How do unclaimed funds work for everything else? Just so we understand sort of the background conversation. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so the first level of sort of unclaimed funds, think that we're talking about bank accounts, brokerage accounts, all your other assets. This is not really part of the unclaimed funds ecosystem, but the first level of prevention of loss is you have somewhere to recover your password, right? If you're online banking with Bank of America and you just forgot your password, there is a bureaucracy to which you can appeal to and contact and get your access restored, correct?
Yep. Oh yeah, I do it often, actually.
I mean, I think we,
yeah.
I think we kind of take that for granted. That is not the case for cryptocurrencies, at least not right now. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. Okay, now, if your bank or brokerage account is dormant for a certain amount of time, it kind of varies from state to state. Let's say 2 years, and by dormant that means zero transactions and just zero activity.
Yep. Nothing in, nothing out, nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Then the bank has a duty under these unclaimed funds laws to contact you and just, kind of tap you on the shoulder, say, hello, are you there?
Hi.
Are you still?
Want your money?
Are you aware
you
that this account exists? And then there's rules. I don't know the exact specifics. I think there's 2 or 3. They have to make, 2 to 5 attempts to make this contact. It's not a one-time attempt and then they're going to do something with your money. They make several attempts before they can reach the determination or reach the assumption that you are not aware of the existence of this and of this account, and they can't get in touch with you.
Right.
But once they reach that conclusion, then the bank or brokerage has a duty to send those funds with your name and last known address and all your information to the state, in this case, New York State or whichever state you live in, and each state has an unclaimed funds department. Right, that one of their whole purposes is to be a clearinghouse, a centralized warehouse, virtual warehouse of all funds that just kind of lost connection with their owners.
Right.
And then now you, as the person who lost your account, or your heirs, or your spouse, or whoever, can always go to this central clearinghouse, again in New York's case, the Unclaimed Funds Department, and type in your name. And we've done this before.
It's actually an easy search.
Did you actually find money once?
I did. I think it was for my dad because I was putting in our names and I found something. I mean, it wasn't much, but I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
But it's that easy. There's a website.
It really is.
Yeah, where you type in your name, make sure it's one of your last known addresses, and that's it. Then you submit the forms to get your money. So that's how the system for banks and brokerage accounts prevent account holders from catastrophic loss of their assets, right? Right. From assets just slipping through the cracks and disappearing. Okay. So that's the background on how unclaimed funds works for general assets. Now we'll talk about why Bitcoin is different, or why cryptocurrency in general is different. Okay. Now specifically, we're talking about when you own your crypto or Bitcoin via self-custody, meaning you own your own keys, versus keeping your crypto on an exchange. If you keep your Bitcoin or crypto on an exchange, there are some similarities to being a regular bank account, right? You have someone to contact for your password, and I believe, I haven't confirmed this, but I believe the cryptocurrency exchanges have the same, follow similar regulations as for the unclaimed funds procedure that we just talked about. Okay. That sounds like, then I'll just do an exchange. Well, if you're a real Bitcoin enthusiast, you kind of understand that's kind of the opposite of the whole point of the self-sovereignty of your money and blah, blah, blah.
Well, what I've learned from you, and because Bitcoin is literally, I'm learning from you as we go along, all the passwords and the key phrases, it doesn't sound like it's going to be just reset. It doesn't work that way. This is not easy based on all of the phrases and seed phrases. Look, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is Bitcoin different? And again, we're talking about self-custody, not exchanges. Number one, there's no one you can turn to recover your password, right? You are responsible for it yourself. And as Janice and I have done with recent crypto estate plans, there's some measures you have to take to make it really work. So number two, if let's say your Bitcoin wallet is dormant for 3, 5, even 10 years, there's no one who's going to say, hey, are you still there? Hey, are you still alive? If your wallet goes zombie, it stays zombie. Right? And right now, people talk, because I don't know if you understand how Bitcoin works. It's a public ledger. We can all see how much is in a given wallet. We just don't know whose wallet it is.
Okay.
Right? And there are huge amounts that have sat in wallets for 10 years. Not more than 10, because Bitcoin's not that old, but like 10 years. And it's not clear if those are if those are wallets that where the owner has lost track of them, or if that's like the original creator of Bitcoin just holding on forever.
Right.
We just don't know. And there's no
interesting.
There's no one to check on that.
So, and by dormant, you mean somebody who lost their password? Or
well, no, we don't know
away,
because it's just sitting on the same wallet with no activity.
Yep. Yeah.
Because again, we can all see it's a public ledger. That's the whole transparency of Bitcoin. We just don't know whose wallet it is, and if that person is alive, nobody knows.
Interesting.
And lastly, so the whole point of that is if you lose your keys, if you lose your seed phrases, or if you fail to set up a way to deliver them to your heirs, they're gone forever.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not gone, but they're stuck in the super, super, super secure blockchain, and there's really no way to get them.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a bit of a downer, but anyway, the next point.
It's like trying to open a vault with like a paper opener, or a letter opener, or something. Like it's just that you're not getting in.
I mean, it might happen from what I understand, it might happen in like a couple of decades when quantum computing reaches a certain level. But anyway, let's not even get into that.
In the meantime, though, you're not getting in unless you have it set up properly.
So let's talk about how to prevent this loss of Bitcoin. So my point is that because Bitcoin and crypto is not governed by the unclaimed funds regime or protocols, you don't have that safety net, right? And believe me, okay, so folks, who cares? I'm a careful steward of my Bitcoin. This will never happen to me. Listen, buddy. What I am, I may not be an expert on cryptocurrency, but what I do know very well is what happens when people die. Okay. And we see it all the time, even things that everyone's familiar with, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, things that everyone uses in their everyday life, things fall through the cracks. Yeah. It's just sort of the chaos of a transition after death.
Yep.
Right? So if you think your spouse or your buddy or your son is going to know as well as you how to transition your crypto to his own wallet,
no.
we need to take a look at that.
Yeah. If you didn't leave any information or directions, it's not happening. Yeah.
All right. So how do we prevent this from happening? We don't have an ironclad or a perfect solution, but we have some suggestions to hopefully nudge the conversation or the community in the right direction. Number one. So how do you recover your password if you lose it? This is again, kind of during your lifetime. No, you don't just share your keys with anyone. That means that somebody can just take all your Bitcoin at any given time. But there's a couple ways to do it. You can either split your free seed phrase up. You can add a passphrase so that anyone would need both your seed phrase and your passphrase to access your money. And then that's a way of splitting it up, as it were. And then give half to somebody and give half to another person. Another thing that we've done in the past that's more physical is to have a copy of your hardware wallet and you give it to your spouse, but you don't give her the PIN code to access that hardware wallet until you pass away or something like that. And you've split that up. So again, no one person can access all your things, but there's ways to connect the parts to make access.
When the time comes, they can all come together, put everything together and get in. Yeah.
So if we have that in place, how do we mimic? How do we recreate the unclaimed funds thing where the state, if there's been something dormant for 3 years or 5 years, taps and says, "Hey, is this a zombie account? Is this all
Hello?
right? Or should
Yeah.
we move to the next level?"
Still there?
Yeah. So the best thing that we can come up with as of now is a decentralized dead man switch. Okay. So first, what's a dead man switch and why decentralized? A dead man switch. This is supposedly made popular by a TV show called 24 that I never watched. Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah, I remember that show. I mean, I don't know if I watched all of them, but yeah.
So how do you remember a dead man switch in that?
I
show?
don't. I mean, I know what a dead man switch is. I don't remember it from that show, though.
Okay, so never mind that reference then. Scrap that.
Everybody else out there may know what we're talking about, but
So in our context, a dead man switch is a button that needs to be pressed in order to prevent something from happening, right? And that's proof of life, basically. The act of pressing the button is proof that you're alive. One way that this is kind of from the movies that this is used is, let's say you're a whistleblower or a journalist who has like this hoard of secret, super sensitive, top secret information. But the powers that be are out there who would kill you to silence you. So what you do is you set it up so that this information will be released unless you and only you continue to press this button. So that would sort of be the deterrent from anyone to
remove
put the hit on you or whatever. I don't know.
You have to keep pressing the switch. Okay, makes sense.
And in our context, the dead man switch is if I don't hit this button every month or every 6 months or whatever parameters you set on it, then something will happen that will sort of move my funds along to the potential next owner or whatever next step in making sure that this doesn't result in catastrophic loss. Okay, it can be notifications to you, the owner. First let's say monthly, but if you miss 3 monthly clicks, then something happens or something like that.
Right.
And then what? Then it either automatically transfers to your beneficiary or the steps to transfer your beneficiary occur. Okay. And what does that mean? We talked about splitting up your seed phrase and your passphrase. Maybe your wife already has your seed phrase, and the dead man switch will deliver the seed phrase to her so she could put the two pieces together and access your Bitcoin. Or maybe your son has a clone of your hardware wallet, but no PIN code, and your dead man switch will deliver the PIN code to him so that he can make the pieces fit together. Those are just
Definitely
two examples.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. Yeah, this switch is triggering something to move it forward instead of just leaving it sitting there, like you said before.
And to be clear, you don't put your whole seed phrase on the dead man switch because this means we're talking about usually like an email delivery service or something like that. You never, ever, ever write your seed phrase online on a hot computer.
Correct.
So that's why you're only giving a part of something.
Right.
So I mentioned before why. First of all, does the concept of a dead man switch make sense and how it applies to this situation? Very good.
Yep, absolutely.
So lastly, why decentralized? Because a centralized dead man switch, let's say there's a company called deadmanswitch.com, and I think there is one. Any company has servers, is a company, corporate entity, and could go away at any given time.
Yeah.
Businesses
and doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of,
if their servers go down, if the business shuts down, then you're kind of, in a pinch. A decentralized dead man switch would mean some kind of probably open source project that does not rely on the existence of one server or one set of servers or one company, but rather will continue to exist as long as the open source community supports it. So that's one thing that makes kind of sense in terms of how to make sure that at least we push forward to the next step. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
All right. And then lastly, so what happens after that? We talked about delivering the split passphrase and seed phrase or the split hardware and PIN code. I mean, those are just some solutions. They're not really great. They're kind of complicated and they're kind of, they're the best that we have right now, as far as I can tell. But we want a solution that preserves the sovereignty of you and your heirs, meaning your ability to control this money without having to get permission from a bank or the treasury or anyone. You want it to be decentralized, as we talked about, because you don't want any single point of failure. And you want it to be secure. The whole point of Bitcoin is it's super, super, super cryptologically, I don't know, secure.
It's just really secure, yes.
Yeah. So again, for now, the split hardware and PIN or the split seed and passphrases seem like something that work. But I would love to hear alternative, better solutions. And there's no bad ideas at this point. This is brainstorming. Just please comment with whatever crazy suggestions you have, and let's see if it's something we can work off of. Yeah.
This whole concept is evolving, right? Even every time we talk, it's like you learn something new or you see something new. It's kind of fascinating. Like you said, I wonder what this is going to look like in 10 years from now.
So that last point is there's a few schools of thought that banking, how it started is a lot different from how it is now. And we might start to see banking for Bitcoin, meaning how it started in the beginning. So what I mean is, in the beginning, banks were not like these one-stop shops for mortgages and this and that and whatever. It was like you mined some gold in the mountains.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to access your wealth and like buy a beer without carrying your hoard of gold around with you wherever you went and having to chip off a piece whenever you wanted to buy a mead or
right.
a mead, but beer. So what you did is you hired a bank which had a vault, and you kept your money, quote unquote, securely there. And they would give you these paper notes called cash or dollars that represented what your gold. So you could freely trade those for your beer or your mutton or whatever you were eating.
Whatever you were getting. Yeah.
And, maybe there needs to be a layer of banking for Bitcoin that is there to secure your seeds or help you secure your wallet and give you day-to-day access to your funds. Without necessarily all the bells and whistles as to what banks and financial institutions have become now. Like really get down to the basics. So helping you secure your money and have quick and easy access,
Yeah. It almost sounds like it'd have to be completely separate from actual banking because they do so much other stuff. It'd have to be so super secure. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
And again, ideally decentralized, sovereign, and secure. Again, only because that's what the hardcore Bitcoiners will demand, basically,
Absolutely. I like what you said, though. If suggestions at this point are welcome, we're learning as we go along. I'm learning completely from, these episodes, and, leave us some comments down there. It also, down in the comments, there'll be a link for Anthony's book, The Solo Ager Estate Plan, to get your free copy. That definitely helps to shed a little light. It doesn't necessarily jump into the Bitcoin, which I think I'd like to push Anthony to maybe a book on that someday, maybe.
I feel like by the time I finish that book, it'll be outdated.
That is a problem with this because it is evolving so quickly. But anyway, click down the link below for your free copy of his book.
And I am super, impressed, happy to see so many soul agers are into this cutting edge technology, more so than their younger cohorts. So that's pretty cool. And I encourage that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we have for today. Thank you, Janice, as always. And thanks everyone for listening. I love talking about this topic, and I love the feedback that we're getting. So let's keep it up. All right. Talk soon, everyone. Bye now.
Talk soon.